LIV Golf has built a bit of a reputation for ruining players' careers. There really hasn't been many cases of players joining the once Saudi-backed league and seeing their golf improve. The last 7 major championships have been won by PGA Tour players, while the biggest stars on LIV Golf in 2026 are really struggling to compete on the major stage. Bryson DeChambeau missed the cut in his first 2 majors of this year, and while Rahm was in the mix at the PGA Championship, he just hasn't been the same player since joining. He looked like he would be the one to challenge Scottie Scheffler at the top of the game. Now, not so much. All the while, promising young stars who had bright starts to their PGA Tour careers before jumping over to LIV Golf have seen their careers stall out, and some of the brightest young amateurs like NCAA champion Michael Lasasso have suffered the same fate. But none of these players were in the original cast of LIV Golf. Before even Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka jumped ship, there was the original group of LIV golfers who first took the plunge into the great unknown to get the league started. Did it work out for them? Well, it might surprise you to know that there's only 16 players currently on LIV Golf who were there for the very first event in 2022. Let's see where the original cast of LIV Golf are today. First, let's look at all the players who were in the very first iteration of LIV Golf. How long ago does this feel? Even down to the team names, which seem to change every month now. Punch GC, Niblix GC, and the players too. I mean, here are all the players who are still members of LIV Golf in 2026 who were original cast members. There's basically no one left. So let's dive into it. As we all know, most of the old boys who joined LIV Golf as a semi-retirement home are still going pretty strong. Dustin Johnson, Sergio Garcia, Ian Poulter, the biggest names who first gave the tour some real legitimacy, are all still playing on LIV Golf. But how does their standing in golf now compared to when they first joined in 2022? Well, Dustin Johnson, for example, was in his late 30s, but actually on the tail end of his most successful period of his career right when he joined LIV Golf. He won the Masters just over a year prior, one of 2 professional wins that year. In 2020, he won 3 times, including the Tour Championship, and he'd won 17 times overall as a pro in the 6 years leading up to him joining LIV Golf. It might be easy to forget, but this was one of the very best players in the world when he left the PGA Tour. And he proved exactly that in his first season, winning the first LIV individual title. But since then, it's been a slow decline into irrelevance. He hasn't won in the last 2 years on LIV, and DJ's best major performance since 2024 is a T23 at the Open. He's missed 6 major cuts in his last 11 appearances, as LIV has effectively ended his time as a competitive player on the big stage. The same can't be said for guys like Ian Poulter and Sergio Garcia, who were also some of the first to call themselves captains on LIV Golf. They were on the tail ends of their careers and looking for a place to end their pro life. And the same goes for Phil Mickelson. He had just won the PGA Championship at 50 to become the oldest ever major winner, but he was also playing on the PGA Tour Champions when he moved to LIV Golf, and his final major win was seen as a last hurrah for Phil rather than a late career resurgence. When you look at the list of captains, meant to be the very best players on LIV when it was first made, 3 of the 12 aren't even in the league anymore. The most recent departure of these captains is Kevin Na, who was just bounced from Ironheads GC as they rebranded to Korean Golf Club. It was an unceremonious departure for Na. For seasons, he had led the Ironheads GC franchise, but ahead of the 2026 season, LIV Golf executives executed a massive pivot towards the South Korean market, rebranding Ironheads into Korean Golf Club. Seeking a fresh face to headline the new team, they cut ties with Na and replaced him as captain with former PGA Tour player Ben An. The sudden ousting closed the door on Na's LIV career, prompting him to pivot to the Asian Tour. Just like that, he was gone. A similar thing happened to Wade Ormsby, but years before. He captained the Australian Punch GC for LIV's inaugural season, but was almost immediately ousted when Cameron Smith joined as the biggest Aussie name. Punch GC became Ripper GC, and Ormsby was turned into a LIV Golf reserve. He did that for a number of years, replacing Louis Oosthuizen at Valderrama when he pulled out with a back injury. But now he's playing on the Asian Tour like Na, which seems to be the way for all of these former LIV guys. Ormsby's story is a common one for many of the original LIV players. The main reason that many of the very first LIV cast are no longer on the tour is the wave of talent that then followed. These roster spots were swallowed up by the likes of Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka when they joined a little later. Crushers GC, Ripper GC and Smash GC looked totally different when Bryson, Cam Smith and Koepka joined, throwing the original cast of players aside immediately. Richard Bland, for example, was tossed onto another team when Bryson was given the reins for Crushers. He's still knocking around on LIV, but guys like Travis Smith, bye bye. He's teeing it off on the Asian Tour. This applied to so many of these players who were the first to play on LIV Golf. When bigger stars came along, they were immediately tossed aside. Siwon Kim, who was the first captain of Smash GC, saw himself relegated on off the tour in 2023, the year after Koepka took his place. He too is now playing on the Asian Tour. But while Kim might be ruining Koepka, one man who has Koepka to thank is his brother, Chase. He was on the very first iteration of LIV Golf, playing for Phil Mickelson's High Flyers, but he joined Smash to join his brother months later. Chase Koepka didn't really do much in professional golf before LIV, and it seemed like he was there as a way to sweeten the deal for Brooks. That was immediately apparent judging by the amount of time he ended up spending on the tour. Chase Koepka was relegated from the league in 2023, and like many of his original castmates, he's now making a living on the Asian Tour. Obviously, Brooks Koepka has since left too, so there's no more Koepkas on LIV Golf. Brooks found himself back on the PGA Tour, but the same can't be said for another player who was on the original cast of LIV and then tried to return. Hudson Swafford was originally on Taylor Gooch's Talk GC. He was a solid player with a few PGA Tour wins to his name. When he first joined LIV, like all the other players, his PGA Tour membership was suspended indefinitely. Unfortunately, he was forced to sit out that season because of a hip injury, and that was sort of the beginning of the end for him. Now we don't talk about him because of what he's done on the course, but instead, he's used as an example because of what happened to him off the course. Swafford eventually left LIV Golf and tried to chart a path back to the PGA Tour, but he didn't exactly have the red carpet rolled out for him. He was relegated from LIV in 2024, but when he sought to return to the PGA Tour by applying for his membership, they weren't having any of it. Instead of a standard 1-year ban, Swafford was informed that he is ineligible to compete in any tour-sanctioned events, including the Corn Ferry Tour and Q School, until 2027. Why not the standard 1-year ban? The tour handed down a 1-year suspension for each of the 5 regular season events that Swafford played in 2022 on LIV that conflicted with PGA Tour broadcasts. Compounding this, Swafford was one of the original players who unsuccessfully tried to sue the tour in 2022, along with Phil Mickelson and Bryson DeChambeau. While the PGA Tour established a returning member program to allow major winning superstars to fast-track their return, that's how Koepka came back, rank and file players like Swafford were left waiting out immense multi-year bans. But the fact that Swafford was treated this way doesn't spell great news for Mickelson or DeChambeau if they ever want to return because of their role in suing the tour too. So LIV has moved on from its original cast of old guys and filler players. Now they have 2 of the biggest names of the sport and a whole host of really promising young talent, even though they're not exactly showing it on the major stage. But depending on what happens to LIV over the next season, and let's be honest, it's not looking good, we could be about to see a return to the old roster for LIV. If Bryson, Rahm and others leave, which is what we expect over the next few years at least, who is going to be left? The old players who are content with LIV, and the players the PGA Tour doesn't want back. So while this seems like a million years ago, it could be the reality once again very, very soon. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and check out the other videos on the channel. I'll see you in the next one.